Greg, can you hear me? Great, thank you.
Do it.
Okay, Greg?
I'm going to start the webinar. We're good on YouTube. Just give us a few seconds and we're ready to go.
This meeting is being recorded.
He's not ready. Okay, we are on.
The meeting of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Herndon?
Present.
Director Miller?
Here.
Director Taylor?
Present.
Director Woodward? Here. Chair Phillips?
Present.
We have 5 present.
I will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Members, please mute your devices.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now have an announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas noches. Esta junta escolar se transmitirá en español para las personas que lo requieran. Si usted quiere acceder a la junta de español en español, usted puede marcar al 312-626-6799. La junta, el número de la junta es 918-2314-5694. Le repito, si quiere usted escuchar la junta escolar en español, usted puede marcar 312-626-6799 y poner el código 918-2314-5694. Gracias.
Gracias. Due to the contingencies of the COVID-19 public health pandemic, this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members are participating remotely and Central Services building is closed to the public. However, in order to allow as much public participation as possible, in addition to our normal practice of broadcasting our meetings on radio station WYMS 88.9 FM and live streaming them on the MPS website, we are broadcasting this meeting on the MPS YouTube stream, the link which can be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. We will now move to our items of business. As stated in the public notice, individuals who wish to speak were required to register in advance. I ask that those waiting to speak please remain on the platform until you are called upon. Although we are on a virtual platform, we will still follow Robert's Rules of Order, which dictates that all comments should be directed toward the chair. Also, any questions or requests, including those from board members or the administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. As always, written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Written comments may be submitted to the board via the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, or fax it to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting esbmilwaukee.k12.wi.us. Now, Madam Secretary, let's begin. Item 1.
Item 1 is action on monthly personnel matters, action on classified personnel transactions, action on certificated appointments, action on the leaves of absence, the report on certificated resignations and classified retirements, and the affirmative action report. The administration recommends that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachment to this item to be effective upon board approval.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make a comment?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. We are asking for your approval of the monthly personnel items as well as the reporting items before you. Adria Maddalini is here with me this evening, and between the two of us, we are able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do members of the committee wish to make comment? Madam Secretary, do we have any speaker slips on this item?
Madam Chair, there are no individuals registered to speak on this item, and we have not received any written testimony on this item.
Director Taylor, did you? Oh, any further discussion by committee? What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Herndon?
Madam Chair, I recommend acceptance of the administration's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item 2 is action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, the salaries increases and decreases as listed, and the limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. The administration recommends that the board, 1, authorize the individuals to be promoted, reassigned, or reclassified, receiving the decreases or increases in salary, and be promoted to the classifications indicated in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval. And 2, approve the limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days pursuant to Administrative Policy 6.23 parent 4 parent B to be effective as indicated in the attachment upon board approval.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Director
I
Herndon.
must recuse myself on this item.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the administrative appointment items that are before you, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? President Miller.
I move adoption of the administration's recommendation.
So we have a motion. Madam Secretary, do you have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have one piece of written testimony that was sent in that does not support this item. And we have one individual on the platform prepared to speak on this item. And that is Ms. Ingrid Walker Henry. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Ingrid Walker Henry, WALKER-HENRY.
Thank you.
Greetings, Chair Phillips, AFP committee members, and Superintendent Posley. Tonight, I am bringing concerns regarding item 2, the LTE contracts. At a time when principals are sending out emails to educators informing them that due to less than expected student enrollment, their teaching assignment will be changed. And when our members who are hourly workers are limited to 6-hour shifts while employees working in MPS schools through contracted cleaning services are receiving 8 hours of work a day, it's shocking to see the number of proposed LTE contracts presented here tonight. I wonder how many of these LTE contracts are to pay retired administrators to observe and evaluate teachers during a pandemic. There isn't one administrator in this district who has ever been asked to teach in the conditions that we are now being evaluated in. MPS has no business spending precious resources to observe and evaluate teachers during a pandemic. Let me be clear that the priority of the MTA are the students and educators of this district and ensuring that this board and administration keep MPS schools stable and whole. Schools must be able to maintain current staffing levels. More than ever, our students and families need the stability and support provided by the educators in their schools. Keeping teachers and educational assistants in their schools and in their current positions is of utmost priority, not LTE contracts that do not support students and educators. Until the board and administration guarantees there will be no furloughs or layoffs of current staff, then the board and administration should refrain from several of the LTE contracts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that completes the public testimony on this item.
Thank you. So we do have a motion. Do we have any other questions or comments by committee members? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Miller's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, and Director Herndon has recused herself from consideration of this item. President Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, 1 recusal. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item 3 is action on monthly finance matters, action on authorization to make purchases, the report on emergency purchases due to COVID-19, and change orders in excess of $25,000. This report also includes the cumulative purchases in excess of $50,000, an informational report on contract modifications, a report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, and the report on monthly grant awards, ending with the acceptance of donations. The recommendation is that the board 1, authorize the purchases, and 2, accept the donations as listed in the attachments to this item with appropriate acknowledgements to be made on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the monthly finance item. Before opening it up for questions, I would like to offer sincere gratitude for all of the generous donors who supported our schools and our students this month. Together, they gave $5,614 in donations. A big thank you to all of those donors this month. And at this time, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have pertaining to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions?
Chair Phillips.
Yes, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. And thank administration for the update. Were there any items or contracts due to COVID that had to be purchased that isn't a necessarily item or a purchasing that we would have made if we were not in COVID-19?
Administration.
Chair Phillips, Director Taylor, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. We do have our emergency purchases that are part of this. And so those would be extra hotspots we bought due to the pandemic. As far as any other purchases listed in here, they aren't extra due to COVID.
Any follow-up?
Thank you for that, Chair Phillips. Yeah, I just think that we should be more informative of the community of some of the extra charges and things that we have to do in reference to COVID, like the extra hotspots. I've been receiving a lot of questions just on budgets and going back to school and things of that nature. And I just think if the community and the public understood more about the funding, or we was more informative about how the funding is being allocated, that would help in building the relationships as well too. So I just wanted to make sure that that was brought out to the forefront, because I know we are spending extra money in reference of COVID. And I would also like to move approval of this item, Chairwoman, Chair Phillips.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have one individual on the platform ready to speak on this item. And I believe the individual that is being uploaded right now is Patty Noon. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Hello.
Your phone is muted.
Madam Chair, it looks like the constituent registered to speak is showing that their phone is muted. And so, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Padraic Noon, P-A-D-R-A-I-C. Last name is N-O-O-N-E.
Thank you.
I stand before the committee today as a resident of Milwaukee and also a business owner, representing other residences of Milwaukee that I'm in contact with. And we are concerned about the costs of public education. It is something we pay very close attention to because it is a large percentage of our property taxes. In our specific case, we homeschool our children. So typically we wouldn't get in, or someone like us may not get involved in the public schooling. But because of the percentage of our property taxes, that gets us involved. What our concern is with these costs that are shown, the operating costs of the month, extra costs due to the virus. There's not an offset being shown of all the savings from March, April, and so on and so forth, of the bus drivers not commuting children, teachers staying home, maintenance people, technicians that did not come to work due to the virus. So we would like to see those cost savings shown so we can understand better how it applies to the increased costs that are being shown for the virus. This would give us more confidence, and also in speaking to people outside of Milwaukee that tend to criticize Milwaukee for having a more expensive property taxes and school system, so on and so forth. We are committed to Milwaukee. Our parish is here in Milwaukee. Our children are here in Milwaukee. We don't want to go anywhere. So we'd rather be part of it as opposed to outside of it. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that completes public testimony on this item.
So we do have a motion on the floor. Do we have any further comments or questions by committee members? Director Herndon.
Thank you. I'd like to ask administration to give some explanation of that. I understand the speaker's questioning, and I think the public should know the expenses are great, and I'd like to hear from administration at this point.
I'll start. Chair Phillips and members of the committee, I will start off, and Martha Kreisman will follow up. Just the idea around cost. Our cost have not stopped. The cost has, as for staff, even through the duration of the spring, staff was working. The district was working. It was just from a remote standpoint. So all of those revenues are being accounted for as well. It also took on an extra layer of various things that we had to produce. And that is PPE, that is emergency cleaning, that the list goes on. And it's actually our overhead is higher than even before, because we had extra added cost onto our normal day-to-day operations of dollars. And I will let Martha Kreisman kind of talk through some of those items of what that looked like and the amount of money that has been spent up until this particular point. Martha?
Chair Phillips, members of the committee, we brought to the board a summary of expenses that we've had with COVID. And one of the largest expenses has been the additional technology, which is estimated at about $22 million. So our costs, our major costs, as Dr. Posley mentioned, is our staff. That's most of our costs as a school district. And we continue to pay staff because they continue to work remotely or on site. And so any savings we had has been just redirected to other purchases such as PPE and technology. And there was also staff that worked at the stop, grab, and go sites. We've, because we get reimbursed like through nutrition based on meals that we serve, we're actually paying for staff and serving meals, but not getting the same reimbursement we would expect during the school year. So we will have losses in that area.
Any follow-up, Dr. Herndon?
One more thing. I understand that there's also an issue with even the technology, such as the Chromebooks having to be replaced due to them being broken, or the students not necessarily taking good care, and then we have to replace those as well. And we had to incur additional costs even with the start of school in the last month and a half.
Administration, would you like to provide more information on that?
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, that is absolutely correct. We passed out a little over 30,000 Chromebooks in March to our students and families, as well as a large number of hotspots along the way. And we have found ourselves this year, and we allowed students to that was going to take part in the summer school to hold on to their Chromebooks, and so that they will be ready to start the academic school year. And in a number of schools, we have had to replace a large number of those Chromebooks that we just put out there in March. And then we have had cases where we have put them out there as early as the week before the start of school, whether it was on the August 17th start date or the September 1st start date, and had to replace them prior to. Also, along with that, we have to make sure that we have Chromebooks at school for young people when we do return in phase 2 or phase 3. So therefore, there are Chromebooks that have to be placed there. So it's a large volume when it comes to technology, as well as replacement items and replacement items for staff as well.
And I see Mr. Chasen from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Phillips. Matt Chasen, OIE. I'll just say that there may be a good opportunity in the fall budget adjustment cycle, which will be beginning next month, to maybe provide a summary of the types of movements of the dollars that we've been doing, and that might fit very well in the budget adjustments conversation we'll have beginning next month.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions by committee members? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item 4 is action on the award of professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts that are set forth in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. We have one contract with National Vision administrators for your consideration, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members have questions or comments? Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item?
Okay.
Yes, Director Woodward.
Okay, I move approval.
Thank you. So we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Woodward's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the professional services contracts, Director Herndon.
Aye.
President Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor. It looks like Director Taylor is currently not on the platform, so we will move forward with Director Taylor being noted as temporarily absent. Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, 1 temporarily absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item number 5 is action on the award of exception to bid contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid contracts as listed in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have on regards of the exception to bid contracts that are before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have any speaker slips on this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? President Miller.
I move adoption of the administration's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On President Miller's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the exception to bid contracts. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item number 6 is action on a request to waive administrative policy 3.09, parent 9, parent E, and extend a contract with the Hayes Group of Wisconsin LLC, doing business as Hayes Companies of Wisconsin, for employee benefits, broker, and consultant services. The recommendation is that the board authorize the waiver of administrative policy 3.09, parent 9, parent E for the contract as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are asking for your waiver to a portion of administrative policy 3.09 in order to extend the contract with Hayes and exercise the 2-year renewal option approved by the board. Hayes provides Human Resources Department with consultant services relative to employee benefits on an as-need basis, and we are happy to answer any question that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
I'd like to pass the gavel to Vice Chair Herndon.
So noted.
Thank you. I have the gavel.
Thank you, Vice Chair Herndon. I just wanted to ask the administration, provide context of, how Hayes has worked with us in the past and, why they are like a chosen vendor to work with us in the future.
Chair Phillips, Carol Edie, Senior Director of Benefits, Pension, and Compensation. Yes, so in 2019, Hayes partnered with HR and procurement and actually helped us draft all of our RFPs for our medical plan, our dental plans, our vision, our FMLA, life and disability plans. They also prepared a side-by-side comparison for the evaluation committee to review the vendors that submitted responses to the RFP and what impact it would have if there was any negative impact to employees if we switched to a different vendor. They also prepared the PowerPoint presentation that was presented to the board in 2x2s. We work with them when we have questions related to compliance issues. They evaluate our claims experience on a monthly and an annual basis and provide us recommendations if the district was to consider making any plan design changes. And then they also have the connection with the different insurance carriers in terms of negotiating rates and kind of seeing what the trend is and best practices in the marketplace for the district. So we work with them on a number of different capacities with regards to benefits.
Thank you. Director Phillips, do you have a follow-up?
I don't. I think that was really comprehensive, and I appreciate sharing all of that, because I think sometimes people can see, what is it that we do when we partner with external firms, and seeing how comprehensive their services have been is really helpful. So with that, I would move approval of the administration's recommendation.
Thank you. I will return the gavel to Director Phillips.
So noted.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments or questions? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
And you may have already asked, but we do not have any public testimony on this item. On Director Phillips' motion to approve the administration's recommendation. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item number 7 is action on a request to waive Administrative Policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E, and extend a contract with EdTech Strategies, LLC for E-rate consulting services. The recommendation is that the board authorized a waiver of the Administrative Policy 3.09, Parent 9, Parent E, and approve the contract extension as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are asking that you waive a portion of Administrative Policy 3.09 in order to allow authorization of the 5th and final extension term with EdTech Strategies for E-rate consulting services, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any committee members that wish to make comment or ask questions? President Miller.
Yeah, I move adoption of the administration's recommendation. This is, from what I understand, is a continuation of a contract in its final year.
Do we have any further comments or questions by committee members? Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
We have no public testimony on this item.
All right, Madam Secretary, will then we please call the roll?
On President Miller's motion to approve the administration's recommendation for an extension of the contract with EdTech Strategies, LLC. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item number 8 is action on monthly facilities matters. The FMS award of construction contracts and professional services contracts recommendation. The administration is recommending that the board approve the attached contract for construction and professional services as set forth in the attachment to this item.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of the Schools. We're asking for your approval of facilities construction and professional service contracts for this month. Travis Leslie is here with us, and we can respond to any questions that you may have regarding this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Herndon.
I move approval of the recommendation of administration.
All right, so we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the monthly finance matters. Director Herndon.
Aye.
I'm sorry, it's the monthly facilities matters. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Thank you. President Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item number 9 is action on a request to approve a revised third amendment to the lease agreement with Greater Holy Temple Christian Learning Center Corp. at the 76th Street School property located at 5575 North 76th Street. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached third amendment to the lease agreement with Greater Holy Temple Christian Learning Center Corporation. Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam
We
Secretary.
do have Jeremy McKenzie from the City Attorney's Office on the line as well.
Great. Does the administration wish to make comment on this item?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval for the approve the revised third amendment to the lease agreement with the Greater Holy Temple. At this time, I would like to thank Mr. Jeremy McKenzie from the Office of the City Attorney's Office, who's joining us this evening to support this item. And at this time, I would like to ask Travis Lusney, who is here with us, that can provide some additional information. And after which we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Travis.
Chair Phillips, members of the committee, Travis Lusney, Director of Facilities and Maintenance Services. Greater Holy Temple Christian Learning Center has operated at the 76th Street School property since 2008. The recommended lease amendment before you is a revision of the lease amendment that was approved by the board in June of this year. Prior to formally signing the approved lease amendment, Greater Holy Temple requested a revision to the amendment, which provides for a one-year term instead of a three-year term, with the option to extend 2 additional one-year terms. Outside of the change in the duration of the term, there are no other revisions to the lease amendment that the board had approved this past June. I'm able to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Yes, Director Woodward.
Yes. Can he tell me the reason for wanting a 1 year, breaking up the years like that? The church. Did you hear me?
Yes. Administration, could you respond to Director Woodward's question?
Sure. Chair Phillips, Director Woodward, members of the committee, Travis Lusney, Director of Facilities and Maintenance. Leadership from Greater Holy Temple had originally agreed to the lease amendment back in May. We processed the June board item. It was approved. They subsequently came back prior to signing that, thinking that they may have to find some space that could be more suitable to their needs. And so we're working with them on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions by committee members? Do we have a motion in regards to this item?
I'll move.
All right, Director Woodward, what's your motion?
I move approval.
All right, so we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Madam Chair, we do not have any public testimony on this item. And on Director Woodward's motion to approve the lease agreement, the amendment to the lease agreement with Greater Holy Temple Christian Learning Center Corporation. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item number 10 is a report with possible action regarding the follow-up to Resolution 2021R-005 by Director Woodward on Central Region staffing. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. I'd like to have Director Woodward speak a little bit more to this resolution since this was hers, and then afterward we'll have administration provide a summary of their findings. Director Woodward.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This resolution 2021R was brought to you in July, and as the clerk said, and it was sent back to committee. So I wanted to say that the needs of our students in the Central Region is very much needed to have staff there. I learned that we now have about 35 vacancies in the district at this time. And I know it's crucial that our students have staff to teach them if they're going to succeed in life at all. And our children need teachers to be there. As I said, many of the substitutes do not take the positions in the central region, which causes them to be using paraprofessionals and others. And it's for our children to grow and develop and to be all that they can be. And during this time, in this pandemic, it's very crucial for them to have teachers, for them to have someone there to teach them and for them to learn. And I believe it's very necessary that we try to get, and I believe the administration is doing all they can. I'm aware this was a nationwide uh, uh, thing that's going on with shortness of staff and people coming into the teaching profession. But I just know we must do something for our children so that they will be able to learn, and that it is something that's going to impact not only our students, our families, but the entire community. It's a very vital issue. So I just want to move approval of this resolution for the need of the children who are not unable to have that the schools that we don't have staff and classes for our students. So, and I would like to move approval of this resolution.
Thank you. And then administration, would you like to provide some of the background in terms of the additional analysis that was asked for?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, at the July board meeting, there was initial discussion on resolution 2021R-005 by Director Woodward regarding Central Region staffing. Also at that time, the board asked the administration to provide some additional fiscal analysis relative to the resolution. We have completed this analysis, and at this time, I will ask Martha Kreitzman to provide it. Martha?
Hello, Chair Phillips, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. So we had brought to you what the cost for this resolution, and it was based on Central Region, and also looking at what we already provide to the 53206 schools. So the additional costs for the Central Region was 1.9 million for substitute floaters, and that's assuming 2 substitutes per school. And then also we would need about 74 FTEs at about 3.1 million to provide paraprofessionals at 40 hours for the Central Region schools. Now, if we expanded this, the comprehensive support and improvement schools, which are identified for improvement by the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction under requirements for our Every Student Succeeds Act. Those schools, there are 56 that are traditional MPS schools. If we provided this for those schools, it would be about 2.95 million, almost 3 million for substitute floaters, and that would be putting 1 at each of those schools. And paraprofessionals, increasing them to 40 hours would be 6.25 million. And that's assuming that they're all at 0.75 and giving the additional 0.25 to get them up to full time. And the reason we made that assumption is we assumed it wouldn't be fair to say, well, you school, you already paid for the additional hours, so we're not going to give that to you, but we'll give it to this school over here. So we just assumed them all at 0.75 and we'd give them the additional 0.25.
And we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So, Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we do have 4 individuals on the platform to speak on this item, and we have also received 4 pieces of public testimony. The first speaker on this item would be Gina Bianchi. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Gina Bianchi, Bianchi. Good evening, Chair Phillips, members of the committee. I am the principal at French Immersion and a principal of Central Region. I would like to thank the board and administration for their commitment to racial equity and Director Woodward for bringing this forward. While I work at a school that has unique staffing challenges due to the need of bilingual teachers, I am not speaking about the needs of my school and those types of staffing challenges. This discussion is about identifying specific schools, and by that I mean the segregated, almost all Black MPS schools that have a high poverty level. This includes many but not all Central Region schools, and it also expands past our region. Many of these schools have ongoing vacancies and many emergency licensed teachers. This is not a problem that any person is to blame for or that can easily be fixed. This has been going on for decades and is a systemic issue that benefits some schools over others. Staff can choose where they want to go, and many choose to work at schools that are sought after because they are less challenging. For example, substitutes do not pick up assignments in the schools on the north side, making day-to-day operations difficult. Also, in interview cycles, teachers can move through the interview process to go to a school that has less challenges. What does this do? Create more vacancies at hard-to-staff schools. What happens then to these added vacancies? Teachers can transfer in without an interview. These teachers could have performance and/or attendance issues, adding on even more staffing problems. Another example is with specialists. They often get to choose which school they want to go to when there is time added, like with the referendum. If we say we stand for racial equity, we need to help dismantle the staffing policies and practices and rebuild them to ensure that the students in these schools get the very best that they deserve. I'd love to see MTA and the ASC partner with the board and the administration in supporting policy changes and really thinking outside the box regarding the hiring and transfer process and incentivizing staff to work at these schools.
30
Thank
seconds.
you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Jane Audette. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Jane Audette, Audettete.
Thank you.
Greetings, Chair Phillips, members of the committee, and Superintendent Posley. I'm speaking for the Micah Education Task Force this evening. We're responding to this resolution as it specifically targets an equity issue for MPS. The task force supports the intent of Director Woodward's resolution, and we appreciate that she has, one, listened to the leadership of the schools in the Central Region and demonstrated the intent to remedy ongoing inequitable staffing issues in some MPS schools. However, there are schools outside of the Central Region for which the inequities outlined in the whereas items are also equally true. To address longstanding inequities in only one region will further exacerbate the inequities for schools outside that region. For this reason, Micah strongly supports targeting this resolution on the CSI schools of the MPS Every Student Succeeds Act plan. This investment of referendum funds would be equitable and aligned with work that's already occurring in MPS under the CSI work. Micah also recommends addressing an additional equity issue related to this one. Across Wisconsin, the lowest resource schools generally have the least qualified leaders. Achieving equity in schools is based on systems, and principals create and maintain the systems in their schools. Micah recommends addressing school leadership support for targeted schools in this resolution. In addition, Micah would also like to support an idea that was put forward by another community member that planned recruitment of paraprofessionals specifically focus on the induction of MPS parents, creating a career pathway for committed residents and taxpayers. Micah Education is always grateful for an opportunity to engage in an equity conversation in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Sarah Hemilowski. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Sarah Mileski, H-M-I-E-L-E-W-S-K-I.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Phillips, members of the AFP committee, and Dr. Posley. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences as a 30-year employee of Milwaukee Public Schools. I'm currently the principal at Benjamin Franklin School. Franklin is a part of the 53206 cohort of schools that received additional resources through the 53206 initiative, an example of a move toward equity proposed by administration and passed by the board. I'm grateful for the resources it has provided, but those things have only scratched the surface of the inequities our students experience daily in the Central Region by no fault of their own. Many of our schools have vacancies that last for months because teachers choose not to accept these open positions. I couldn't fill my 4th grade position last year with a highly qualified, effective teacher to save my soul. I want to emphasize effective because what's on a resume doesn't always translate to being successful while working in a Central Region school. It is also very frustrating to continuously lose employees during the spring hiring cycle when positions become open at schools that don't in any way represent the same demographic as Franklin. Over the last 2 years, I've lost 2 great special education teachers, both who cut their teeth at Franklin to schools on the South Side. This is devastating to a school with a special education population over 30%. What are the incentives for teachers to put down roots and become part of the fabric that makes a school strong when they're able to go to schools that don't have the same challenges as well as joys that being a part of the Central Region does? I wonder what systems could be developed collaboratively to provide incentives for staff to start and stay at Central Region schools. I spent a couple of years as the assistant principal at Fernwood Montessori in Bayview, and I'm grateful for everything that I learned in my time there. What that experience has done for me, though, is made it clear how inequitable the educational experience students and
30 seconds
at Franklin and other Central Region schools have daily. We all must do better for my students, our students, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Kristlyn Frederick Stanley. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Kristlyn Frederick Stanley. Stanley, S-T-A-N-L-E-Y.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Phillips, members of the AFP committee, Superintendent Posley, administration, and all in attendance. I am the privileged principal of Keefe Avenue School, located in the 53206 community. Thank you to Director Woodward for taking action on the collective request letter that was sent to the school board on June 24, 2020. We, principals of Central Region, were all in different places back then. Our school board and school administration has taken many steps to move our district forward, and your efforts are commendable. Today, I would like to speak in support of Resolution 2021R005. I do not have enough time to go into details about why the resolution has validity. I just want us all to acknowledge that all of our schools do not face the same challenges. We all know that Milwaukee is a hyper-segregated city, and if we are not intentional and deliberate about addressing the disparities around staffing, then the end result will be what we currently see, a high level of vacancies in some of our schools. The schools that have a high percentage of Black and Brown students are the schools that face some of the most challenging staffing issues. Several years ago, I participated in a march across the 16th Street Viaduct in support of public education. The sign that I carried stated, "Public education is a civil right." I would like to add the word quality to that statement. A quality public education is a civil right. If MPS wants the most disenfranchised students of our school community to receive a high quality education, then we all have to work together to attract and retain qualified, certified, and committed staff. Yes, the teacher shortage is a state and national issue. So we all have to address this issue together. We must have a starting point and Resolution 2021R005 gives us its starting point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next, that would be the last speaker that we have on the platform for this item.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Oh, President Miller?
Chairwoman.
You're on mute, President Miller, so we'll have you and then Director Taylor.
Okay, thank you. So first I want to thank the speakers tonight. All of them were very thoughtful and helpful in trying to look at this, which is what this resolution raises a real issue. But let me just raise some of my concerns at this point in adopting this this specific resolution. One, we are in more of an economic crisis than we ever dreamed would happen when we went forward with our budget. We have the 22 million COVID costs. We have the loss of student enrollment. And just one thing that the superintendent raised tonight was the cost that we're putting forward to provide meals to communities across the city. And so one, in the reporting from the administration, the resolution would cost $5 million if we did it for all the CSI schools, which I think if we're going to do something, we have to look at all of our CSI schools, and that would be $9.2 million, which to do this sort of special funding should have been done through the budget process. This is not a new situation for these schools, but it is an urgent situation. So one of the things that the board has done was provide special funding for 53206. It doesn't come anywhere even close to satisfying what is needed, but it is special steps around staffing for 53206, and that was very intentional. What I would support at this time is I will not support this resolution as it is, but I would support some sort of a motion to have the administration come back to us with looking at proposals for incentivizing staffing for all of our CSI schools, and find policy changes as people spoke to it, as the speaker spoke to, find policy changes that will actually look at all CSI schools and put us in a much better position with staffing. This thing that people raise about people not going to specific schools, there has to be some serious collaboration around how that's going to change, especially within the funding difficulties that we are facing right now. So I would be in support of something substituting that would actually call on the administration to come back to us with a much more urgent and way of solving this issue.
Thank you. So, President Miller, we have a motion on the floor. Is that, are you trying to provide another motion or just a suggestion, a friendly amendment? I just want clarity before we move to Director Taylor. Your mic is muted.
I'd like to hear other board members' perspectives and then possibly consider, I might consider a substitute motion. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think about this as we proceed.
Thank you. We've got Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Phillips, and thank you, Director Woodward, for bringing this forward and the individuals that spoke on this item. I understand that we're saying basically all of our schools need some other type of assistance. I also recognize that we have to try to start somewhere. And all of the time, we cannot start with all of 160 schools. And take it, we often talk about 53206. I know some of those schools are definitely in my district, and I have firsthand knowledge of some of the challenges within the school, within the staffing, and ensuring that we have enough individuals there to service our students. We should be moving towards excellence, not just when we say a lot of times qualitative educational for our students. I do agree with this. I am a numbers person though, so I am forever looking at numbers, and I know we're in a tight spot with this pandemic. And even before COVID, you know, budget was always an issue when we talk about public education. I am listening and trying to be open to ensuring that we move forward, and what are some of the ways that we can start to address some of those needs if we definitely don't have the funding to go gung-ho now. But I am in agreement with the cause of this resolution, and I once again want to thank Director Woodward for bringing this to our attention. We're bringing it forward, but the individuals for bringing it to our thank you, Chairwoman Phillips.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments or questions by committee members? Director Herndon.
Thank you. I too would like to thank Director Woodward for bringing this forward. I'm in total agreement, although I see some real challenges here that I would like to see administration come back with information on to move forward. And specifically, which after I got on the board and I started hearing how teachers and substitute teachers could purposely choose where they wish to work, I always felt that were a problem. And I think first and foremost, we need to address that issue. And we can't address it tonight, but we definitely need to address that. And then the next thing is that our budget is coming up next month. And under the financial circumstances that everybody has, be it in the workplace or at home, I think that we would be negligent if we did not make sure that whatever decisions that we made in terms of hiring practices or whatever, that we could really put that forth and make it work. And we definitely need all of the issues that are outlined in this resolution. But I think that first and foremost, we need to look at getting those employees in there. How are we going to do that? How many do we need? And can we pay them? And the other issue is, maybe there's an incentive that must be provided. I don't know, but that's all the more reason why we should make sure that we can make this work, and also take into consideration the circumstances by which the district is currently operating, both financially and in terms of bodies. So with that, I'm done.
I just wanted to take time to ask administration if they wanted to respond to anything that has been shared so far, any comments from administration before we go back around to committee members.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, there's a couple things that we just want to shed a little light with, is the idea of the vacancies that we have overall in the district is 144.5, and for the central region is 31.
35.
35.
Okay.
Who gave me?
Administration, have you concluded your comments, or is it muted?
Yes, we are done. 35 for the central region. Thank you.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor. President Miller.
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion. I move that the administration return next month to present the issues of staffing, including teachers, paraprofessionals, and substitute teachers, that are raised by this resolution, but as applied to all CSI schools in all regions.
Okay.
Director Woodward.
I can give you that now. In the Northwest region, there's 50.5 vacancies. In the Central region, 35, Southwest region, 35, and in East region, 24. And those are the vacancies that I received from Human Resources.
And Director Woodward, did you have any other comments or questions in regards to the substitute motion?
What? I didn't get it.
Oh, yep. Did you have any other comments or questions to Director Miller's substitute motion?
Well, I just believe that we have to start somewhere, and we need to start moving forward. We've been moving forward with all types of things, adding to that is not dealing with education. I believe we're educators, and that first and foremost is to educate our children. If we're going to have a life, if we're going to stop the pipeline to prison, if we're going to stop children from not being able to live up to their fullest potential, I think this is first. And I believe that if we take first education and see that our children are education, take the responsibility, our responsibility, serious. That's to educate our children. We cannot assume everybody's responsibility. Right now, we assume the responsibility of transporting students, which is not our responsibility. We're doing many things that we're to do one thing, educate. Every child should succeed in our schools. And all the other stuff, if it has to go, that is not educating children, we have to let it go. But education is the reason we're here, the purpose we're here, and it is why our students are coming here and get the most and the best education that they may be able to succeed in life. And so it's many things coming forth in resolutions, but it's not going to educate them with reading, writing, math, sciences, and things that are going to get them through life and have a life that they be able to live. So we just brought it back. It went before. That same thing came before. This is not the first time. Keep sending it back to committees and it come back. And if it's something, it could have been all, said before in the first time it came around. So I still hold to move approval of the resolution with the administration. I'd like to add, looking at places where it's not doing the job of educating our students, giving them exactly what they need to succeed. So with that, making sure that we are sticking with that portion and things that is not necessarily going to have our children living up to their fullest potential, we have to drop somewhere. I know we can't do everything, but somewhere we got to do what we are here to do, and that is the education of children, and every child should be succeeding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have other committee members that wish to make comment or ask questions on the substitute motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Just for clarity, I want to be sure that I've captured Director Miller's substitute motion, which is to move that the administration bring back to the board next month a report on staffing for all CFI schools for all regions. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion before we vote on the substitute motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Director Miller's substitute motion, which is to direct the administration to bring back to the board a report on staffing next month on staffing for all CSI schools for all regions. Director Herndon.
No.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
No.
Director Woodward. Your mic is muted, Director Woodward.
No.
Chair Phillips.
Yes.
That's 2 ayes, 3 noes. The motion fails. We are back to the original motion, which is approval of Resolution 2021R-005 by Director Woodward.
All right, so we are back at the original motion. Do we have any further questions or comments? If not, I'd like to move the gavel to Dr. Herndon.
So noted.
I have the gavel.
Thank you, Chair Herndon. I just had a question for administration in terms of our looking at the budget for October. Do we have any forecasted deficits based on enrollment and COVID costs?
Thank you, Director Phillips. Administration, do you have any answers for her question?
Vice Chair Herndon, members of the committee, we have preliminary numbers. Yes, we do have preliminary numbers. One of the things that I will share with you that they are not 100% solid because our numbers have not been vetted as of yet. We have a 2-week window where we're now working to firm up all of our numbers with to send in to DPI. And then we will have numbers that will push us to know, to have solid numbers. However, I can say that we received 96% of our projected enrollment for this year for starters, but we still, that number has yet to be confirmed.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director Phillips?
Yes, so I think in terms of like this resolution, I don't think there's anyone in committee that disagrees with it. It's just, I have a hard time kind of understanding if we were to pass this, how we would pay for it. So is there, like, could the administration provide information on what money could be reinvested in order to make this investment?
Administration.
Vice Chair Herndon and members of the committee, yes, we will be able to provide that, but I am not right now tonight. We could get that information to you prior to the full board. We'd be more than happy to do just that. But, you know, just like anything else, we will do what we are asked to do.
Thank you. I see Director Woodward.
Yes, I would like to ask the administration a question.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Dr. Posley, as we said, we'll be getting ready to go into the next budget. Is there a possibility, right now we're doing virtual educating and everything, but is there a possibility that we start looking at the things that are not especially needed to educate and make cuts where things is not our responsibility, and start looking at the things that first is our first and foremost responsibility, and start taking there where we have to cut, where there are things that we are not mandated to be doing. We are mandated to educate our children. So I just want to know, is that a possibility?
Thank you. Administration.
Vice Chair Herndon and members of the committee, to Director Woodward's question, yes. Our goal is to, number one, Our priority is for the quality education for all children in this district, and to do everything we possibly can to meet their academic, mental, and social needs that they may have, as well as physical needs. And what we will do from a budget standpoint is that look at everything that we do with young people. We're going to put it on the table and look at options to bring back, and options that we would have to make some adjustments with, and ways of how we can adjust as we go forward. But in situations when we come up with a shortfall, we look at every possible solution that is out there to get us to where we need to be to meet the needs of our children.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll return the gavel to Chair Phillips.
So noted.
All right, so Director Herndon.
Thank you. I still have the question in terms of no matter how much money we have, if we have no budget problems, the staffing is still the main issue. Now, I don't know if you can answer that tonight or not, but I'm sure there's got to be some legalities in how we would maneuver what was brought up tonight in terms of employees having choices of where they wanted to teach.
Administration.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, yes, that is not a question that I will be able to give you a final answer to tonight, but that is something that I can look into and get back to you. But I will just share with you that this is going to be a conversation with HR, the MTEA, as well as ASC around this particular piece to meet those needs and to get us to where we need to be. This is a long time standing that will have to be addressed, and the administration is happy to address those issues and concerns. That is something that we have always talked about, but also it's a time now for an opportunity to take a closer look at the issue and to get us to where we need to be in order to move this district forward.
Thank you.
All right, President Miller.
Yes, I'd like to ask of the administration, if this passes tonight and then passes at the full board, where are you going to find the $5 million that we're going to need on the 1st of October?
Administration.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we will be sharpening the pencils and looking for it as just like we do with anything else that come our way. But I would share with you, it's going to be some work because we have so many unknowns right now. And those unknowns are, when it comes to enrollment, we don't know, the actual numbers. When we come to COVID costs, we don't know the actual numbers. It's just a number of unknowns. But we will do what's necessary to have a balanced budget.
President Miller.
Yeah, just a follow-up question, because this resolution calls for taking a significant amount of money out of MPSU, which is the main source for us finding for training and finding African-American teachers. So you take money from one place to put it in another, and it hurts us in doing what we're trying to accomplish. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's foolish appropriation of policy. So I just would like members to consider that in evaluating this resolution.
All right, do we have Director Woodward? Director Woodward, you're on mute.
This is not, the most concern is the education of the children. And as we start to review where we can cut, but if that's an issue, about, I don't recall seeing anything in here about taking money from MPSU. Okay, I don't see that. And I would, if he can give me the item that he's referring to.
President Miller.
Maybe I'm misplacing it. I have to go back and look at it.
Shall I read it to you? Okay.
No, I don't want you to read the whole item. I do not want the whole.
It's to further resolve.
I just want to remind that you can direct your comments toward me. And I think that Director Woodward, you're referencing the further resolve that a portion of the funding allocated to strengthen MPSU shall be used to support paraprofessionals who are serving in the central region in getting certified as teachers. Is that what you are going to reference,
Yes,
Director Woodward?
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes, so it says in the second to the last reserve that a portion of the funding allocated to strengthen MPSU be moved to this resolution. That's taking money out of the training of Black teachers, of paras, and whoever's coming forward to become teachers in this district, which I believe all of us support. It's taking money from that to put into this resolution. It doesn't mix the words. It says take a portion of that funding for this resolution, and I'm absolutely opposed to that. It will diminish the work of MPSU, and it will hurt this board's work in trying to find and train at the highest level African American and Latino and other teachers of color.
I see Director Taylor followed by Director Herndon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I guess just for clarity, and maybe it can be to the maker of the motion or administration, whoever can efficiently answer the question. I understand now that it's in a portion of MPSU, so it's not saying the whole part, which I understand the importance of MPSU as well too. But another thing I want to say is, in dealing with budgets or resolutions or anything that we pass, it seems to always be that we're moving money around from one department to the next. And I'm not saying whether it's correct or not, but I honestly, let's just go back to budget. You know, people were adamant about not taking from certain departments. And at the end of the day, I believe it was early childhood, the money was then taken. And, you know, everybody on the board initially was against it. We heard comments from people. So I feel like anywhere that we do any resolution or we move forward, I do think we have to be diligent in where we are moving money from, but we're going to take it from some department, even if we're not talking about this for the educators or for 5346, even if we're talking about MPSU, there's no extra money anywhere from what I'm understanding. So anything that we pass to do, whether it's today or next month, is going to be moving the money around. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. And when we said percentage of MPSU, is there a designated amount of a percentage of MPSU that we're going to look at diversing from there to put over into this resolution? And that's for the maker or administration or whoever can answer efficiently. Thank you, Chairwoman.
So we'll go to the maker of the resolution first in terms of like the intent of the portion of funding, and that second to last further resolved. So Director Woodward.
Well, one of the first things I said is that the priority should be every student succeed, and we are under the Every Student Succeed Act. So, but wherever we need to cut, in it's many other places other than MPSU. I would see that could be a final resort, but I don't see that being the first thing you would go just to that one issue, because there are many other places and things out there that are going on that we could start looking at. That is not the responsibility, which I said before, of the school. It's not our responsibility, that we assume our responsibility to Every Student Succeed Act. That doesn't mean taking away from anything. It was just me, let's set our priorities according to priority one. what is the first thing? Okay, and we're also, a resolution that went forth was to recruit already traditional Black African-American students, and we're having people, so you can't do everything. So you got people recruiting from traditional Black colleges and to come in, and you got to start training people to come in. So you start looking at what is the priority? If we're doing, it's like a dual thing. You're gonna be doing it we're gonna train them, then we're gonna be recruiting. You know, we have to make priorities, establish the priorities, and that's all I can say.
Well, we did have Director Herndon in the queue, so we'll go to Director Herndon, then President Miller.
Yes. I would like to add two things. I'd like to ask administration, didn't we fund MPSU at least in two pieces of the pie, actually, one being the referendum. And I think there was another initiative that was put forth more recently that added some additional funding to MPSU. And then the second thing is, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask the sponsor if she'd be willing to remove the funding source from the resolution tonight. And that would allow more work to be done on potentially head count or how many we could afford based strictly upon our ability to pay, because we're in a bind here. And we made the effort to fund training for the teachers, to get the teachers that we need. And where we are right now really doesn't sound too workable. So that's what I'd like to ask the sponsor.
So administration, if you could answer a little bit about what funding has looked like for MPSU in this past budget cycle, and then Director Herndon's next question was to the author. So let's start with administration and then take it back to the author of the resolution.
Chair Phillips, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. In the referendum budget, $200,000 was put aside for MPSU. And then there was also another resolution at a different time to put $200,000 aside for MPSU. So that was an additional $400,000.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, and also there are dollars that's set aside for the functioning of the office and some other things that we are doing, because they are dollars that are set aside for Montessori education and various things that we are doing that has been earmarked for those purposes.
Thank you for the context. Director Woodward, Director Herndon had asked if you would consider removing that second to last further resolved so that there is an explicit funding within this motion. Oh, Director Woodward, you're on mute.
What is she talking about? The one that's, which one she asked to be moved?
Director Herndon, can you
restate what she said?
Restate. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. What I asked, would you be willing to remove the funding specification, which was, I think, the second to the last resolution, so that we could get beyond the impasse of funding, because we really don't know what type of funds we're dealing with. And that eliminate, go ahead.
The funding for MPSU? Is
yes.
That what you're talking?
Yes.
Yes, I'll take it out, sure.
Thank you.
All right, and then we had President Miller and then followed by Director Taylor.
Yeah, am I on mute? No. There was comments made about recruitment. This district has an incredibly aggressive recruitment campaign and approach. And to say that we're not doing enough of that is wrong, just flatly wrong. and incorrect. We do very serious recruitment at the historically Black colleges. We do we do incredible. We go to Puerto Rico to recruit. We do significant amount of recruiting. The problem is what we've learned, at least what I've learned personally over the last period, is the main source that we are going to get teachers who are dedicated to our students, that are teachers of color, particularly Black and brown teachers, are going to come from our own ranks and our own communities. That's why MPSU is so important. And for that to be the only source of revenue that's put in this resolution is very problematic for me. I think that what we're asking by passing this resolution is for the district to come up with money that does not exist. And I think we have to do it very, very carefully. In planning for next year's budget, as was asked, of course, we can make any priorities that people want, they can make. But at this time, in this particular situation, I think we need to be very cautious about coming up with $5 million on this one issue.
So we had Director Taylor, and then we'll go back to Director Woodward.
Thank you, Chair Phillips. After hearing Director Herndon and then the maker of the motion agreeing to it, would that then make it a substitute motion? I just want us to keep in line with what we're speaking on or what's being approved. So I heard the maker of the motion say she would be willing to take out the line with MPSU on there. So I just want to know, now do we have to have it as a substitute motion so that that's what we're speaking to and that's what's on the floor? I just want us all to be on the same page.
Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Director Herndon put forth a friendly amendment to remove that whereas from the resolution, and Director Woodward's motion to approve the resolution, accepting that friendly amendment and removing the further whereas that references MPSU for funding would still be on the table.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Madam Secretary. I guess the next question would be if I'm looking at this correctly, I'm trying to go between two screens. But this still has to be something that has to be brought back by administration now that we're talking about the funding streams and MPSU going out. And for the maker of the motion, then how do we proceed with that? Because I do think this is something that we still need to figure out the funding stream and then how it's going to be implemented.
Administration.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we will be happy to bring this information back, and we could get this information back prior to the full board of the cost. We already have rendered the cost, but looking at some options of where and how we subtract it out.
Any follow-up?
No, thank you for that, Chair Phillips.
All right, so Director Woodward.
Yes, I think I'm unmuted. The only thing is, I have already said that according to Director Herndon, that item I'd be willing to take out. I agree with that thing. So would that require a motion to have that removed and the rest of the resolution stand that it is? The MSPU, whatever it is. Okay.
I think Director Woodward, Secretary Mann mentioned that it would be a friendly amendment, so a new motion would not be needed. That was my understanding. Secretary Mann, do you have a response to that?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, you are correct.
Okay, great. So it stands without the the funds for MPSU. Okay.
All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Woodward's motion to adopt Resolution 2021R 2021-005 as amended on the board floor, removing MPSU as the funding source for the resolution, which is removing completely the second to the last further resolved, which reads, further resolved that a portion of the funding allocated to strengthen the MPSU shall be used to support paraprofessionals who are serving in the central region and getting certified as teachers. That would be removed from consideration when bringing the resolution to the board for its consideration. On the motion as read into the record to approve the resolution, removing the language as read into the record. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
No.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Director Phillips.
No.
That's 3 ayes, 2 noes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
Item 11 is a report with possible action on vendors' compliance with contract requirements for historically underutilized businesses, HUB. Communities in need of improvement, Communities in Need, the COIN program, and Student Engagement Program. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Does the Office of Accountability and Efficiency wish to add comment?
Thank you, Chair Phillips. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Yes, per Dr. Mann, this is the report that we're bringing this month under policies 3.10 and 3.13. As always, I have the privilege of introducing our Manager of Contract Compliance Services, Ms. Regina Flores, who's going to take us through the presentation. Ms. Flores, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chasen. Good evening, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. Again, Regina Flores with the Department of Contract Compliance Services. Tonight, we'll be providing updates on fiscal 20 performance to date. I'm just waiting for the presentation to, there we go. And so again, we'll be providing updates on fiscal 20 performance to date. Next slide, please. Contract Compliance Services is responsible for reviewing, assigning, and monitoring district procurements to identify opportunities for assignments of contract requirements through historically underutilized businesses, communities in need, and student engagement. Values presented within the slides are expected to increase as various facilities and maintenance and professional service contracts remain open. The following slides will present data within these program areas demonstrating direct impacts on Milwaukee's economy and workforce. Next slide, please. For fiscal 20, we monitored 215 contracts, which decreased from the prior fiscal year. However, the total dollars monitored increased. The combined contract values equaled $247,699,326, which included facilities and maintenance, professional services, goods and services, and in some instances, exception to bids and cooperative procurements. Exception to bids and cooperative procurements. More than 170 million of these contract dollars contained a varying HUB assignment based on the marketplace availability of certified HUB firms. During our compliance review, we found 68% of HUB dollars assigned have been paid out to date. Again, we anticipate an increase in both expenditures paid and HUB performance. The team is gathering data concerning COVID impacts to our business partners as we experience requests for HUB waivers and remediation options to achieve HUB compliance for the fiscal 20 period. Next slide, please. The fiscal year comparison slide provides a look back from fiscal 14, where our team implemented contract monitoring improvements, including the broader implementation of a national compliance tool, which also serves as a database of certified businesses for Wisconsin municipalities. The yellow represents HUB dollars assigned, whereas the red bar graph represents total HUB dollars paid. The green bar provides an accounting of total invoice dollars paid and could be compared against the blue bar graph, which represents the total contract dollars the team monitored for the fiscal year. It is expected HUB dollars paid will increase slightly for fiscal 19 as there are open facilities and maintenance service projects. At our next quarterly update to the board, we expect to have additional HUB dollars accounted for upon review of COVID-19 survey data and waiver requests for the fiscal 20 period. Next slide, please. At this point, I would like to clarify for the listening audience, a revision has been provided to committee members. This award by contract category slide provides a more comprehensive overview of the various awards by industry the team monitored for fiscal 20. The snapshot is based on executed contracts over $50,000, and the contract expenditure utilization trends remain consistent with prior fiscal year monitoring. Next slide, please. Next is our Communities in Need Initiative, or COIN, which is the district's workforce preference program that targets the engagement of City of Milwaukee residents on facilities and maintenance general construction projects. Our team monitored 28 general construction projects for fiscal 20. 19 of those construction projects contained a COIN assignment. We are currently observing a 20% workforce participation rate. Since our last compliance report, we informed the committee the team was planning to engage mission-aligned partners to increase diversity and equitable opportunities to constituents through COIN. We continue to convene with MAPS and are presently engaging community stakeholders to leverage student engagement resources with mission-aligned partner resources and increase access to career pathways into the skilled trades. Focusing efforts toward this goal can help increase the skilled trade classification representation. We have observed declines of skilled trades classification representation. According to preliminary anecdotal data collected by the team, emerging challenges are results of math and literacy competencies, transportation, and mentorship. Next slide, please. This next slide provides a snapshot of completed project workforce hours on general construction projects where COIN is assigned. Again, we continue to monitor projects for fiscal 19 and 20, and little data is available to report out on at this time for fiscal 21. Next slide, please. Next, we present the impact our assignment had on the student engagement program. As you know, these assignments are twofold, consisting of employment and or education hour requirements on district contracts. I will recap briefly a few of the highlights we achieved during fiscal 20, which included enhancing our operational framework to link our student engagement program with mission-aligned partnerships representing employers and business leaders, both for-profit and nonprofit. Partners are now organized to engage the CCS team. Additionally, we saw increased commitment from MPS departments such as Career and Tech Ed, Facilities and Maintenance, Human Resources, Business Services, Procurement and Risk Management, and Technology. Improved organization allows our team to streamline resources and support real-world internships for students. During this past summer, we worked with two outstanding nonprofit mission-aligned partners, IC Stars and Lead to Change. Both organizations stepped up to assist our department to develop training opportunities benefiting students through a remote learning approach. As a result, we have an app that we are working to implement created by IC Stars students that is designed to increase real-time engagement between students, employers, and mentors. This is especially important as we see trends emerging where students are able to work remotely. Additionally, the cohort of students with Lead to Change completed workforce etiquette training, received exposure to various career industries, and published an anthology titled The Quarantined Teen. It's actually for sale. These examples are models for how we leverage resources to accomplish more and build more support for work-based learning. Fiscal 20 also resulted in a record number of student employment hour assignments totaling 50,100. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with an overview of wages paid to students. Please know our team is working through remediation plans for both fiscal 19 and 20 and expect those values to also increase. Next slide, please. This graph provides you with the year-by-year comparison of hours assigned by our team. Again, we expect fiscal 19 and 20 to increase over the coming months. Next slide, please. Next, I will cover highlights of the second prong of student engagement, which is career education. Our office assigned career education requirements to 191 contracts, totaling 2,100 hours. The number of contracts decreased from the prior year. However, the total hours assigned to new contracting opportunities increased in hours. Prior to Safer at Home orders, contractors and vendors met these requirements through classroom presentations, job shadowing, mock interviewing, career coaches, and community resource and job fairs. These activities have been transitioned to virtual platforms. and also includes donations from contractors or vendors that further support the tools students may need to model project-based learning from home. Next slide, please. This graph provides you with the year-by-year comparison of hours assigned by our team. Again, we expect fiscal 19 and 20 to increase over the coming months. Next slide. And lastly, here are some of our final points that are informing our current work with the development of our annual work plan. That concludes our presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak to this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have 4 individuals who have submitted written testimony, and we have 1 individual on the platform from Contract Compliance Office, Ms. Jakina Cohen. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hi, it's actually Jayana, her daughter, but I'll be reading. Okay. Good evening, Chair Phillips and members of the board. My name is Jayana Cohen, last name Cohen. I am a sophomore at Rufus King International High School, and I'm speaking in support of the CCS Student Engagement Program. The program provided me with an amazing opportunity to work as an intern in the MPS Human Resources Department this summer. I was responsible for answering phones, creating new hire binders, and scanning documents. Working in the HR taught me responsibility. I had to make sure I arrived to work before 8 a.m. every day with a mask on. Even when I wanted to sleep in, I learned how to multitask. I was given different assignments from multiple employees and had to meet important deadlines. Answering the phone taught me patience and active listening skills, all skills that are really important life skills. I also gained a few mentors during my internship. The HR team members were very positive and made me feel comfortable even if I didn't understand something. They made me feel a part of the team each day. I appreciate the internship not only because it was paid, but also some of the things I've learned I'm now using throughout the school year. Going to school virtually is new and forces students to stay motivated and juggle multiple classes without physically being in a classroom. I believe I would have been overwhelmed if I hadn't completed an internship this summer. Completing the internship and then going right into the school year was an easy transition. Finally, I was able to work during the pandemic and would not have had this opportunity without the student engagement program. Programs like this teach students such as myself what it's like to work out in the real world and how to handle work/life balance. Thank you and have a great night.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, the registration is different than the speaker. So I just want to be sure that I have, it's Jayana Cohen. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Great, well, I'll pass the gavel to Director Herndon because I've got a few questions.
I have the gavel.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you for this presentation and also to our speaker, and thank you to the HR team that hosted an intern. It's not just that takes work to build that kind of culture. So thank you for that. In terms of when you say that within the presentation that assigned hours against completed hours will go up within the next few months, is that due to reporting and when reports come in?
Chair Phillips, members of the committee, that's correct. So depending on when the contracts have been executed, they seem to overlap into the next fiscal year. And so we are constantly running that monthly report to update those hours accordingly. And then based on when what the contract utilization rate looks like is when our CCS assignments become enforceable. So for example, once a contract is at 70% of the contract award, it's been invoiced at 70%, that threshold is when we see this trend emerge where companies are then pursuing their student engagement or hub assignments. And so they may be later to complying to the requirements, but we essentially see them reconciling those requirements during either at various stages within their contract term. And in some instances, it may carry over into the contract extension, which then results in a remediation plan being submitted in order for that recommendation for contract extension to be to move forward through the various committee meetings and full board.
Is there a follow-up?
Yeah, and just my last follow-up in terms of the next steps that were presented. You know, you talked about this a little bit earlier with the mission aligned partners and how you have connected since the stay-at-home order. You know, how are they reconsidering what student opportunities look like during this year? And then, you know, further on, you know, like, do you think that this is going to lead to more remote opportunities for the long term?
Chair Phillips, members of the committee, we continue to convene mission aligned partners based on industry. So we have held a all hands mission aligned partner meeting back in May, and then we have continued to meet with various industry designated mission aligned partners over the last few months. More recently, where we were able to survey those mission aligned partners to obtain samples of what, as part of our next step, is participating within the development of the policy for Resolution 2021 R-008 for Contractor Code of Conduct, where we were able to obtain samples and just bring awareness around what type of impacts or implications this has on students that are pursuing career pathways within the COIN program, as well as various other industries. And so we have been able to maintain their involvement through those, through the different business of the district, and then continue to hold just the all hands mission aligned partner. What we've seen is just increase of break off partnerships where other community organizations that were not working together in the past are now collaborating through the areas that they're responsible for. So that's also been a really, it's been a benefit to be a part of that organizing of those partners. So just to provide some additional clarification, mission aligned partners are companies that are either in contract with the district, but also have been, they have served as an alternative placement site for, say, one of our contractors that may not have been able to host a student because of their geographic location, but they see the value in providing these types of opportunities for students on site, and now working together to develop the different types of remote options that can be accomplished by students from home. It requires more participation and involvement, because we're able to identify some of the limitations that students are experiencing, whether it's technology related. Most students have Chromebooks, which may have some restrictions in the types of apps that can be, that the organization needs students to have access to. And in those instances where we're receiving those donations, we can easily identify what types of resources students need to be successful, regardless of what type of environment they're working within.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. No other follow-up.
Thank you. I'll return the gavel.
So noted.
And I see Mr. Chasen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Phillips. Matt Chasen, OAE. One of the things that you've seen as a committee is the year-over-year expansion and increases and outputs and outcomes of the CCS team. And they have done that without adding capacity. They have engaged in a very thorough process improvement, efficiencies gained methodology. And I only say that because there's a point at which those will bring diminishing returns. And in order to continue to grow the program, we'll eventually hit a capacity constraint. And at such time, we'll be sure to let the board know from a capacity conversation what that might look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Do other committee members wish to make comment or ask questions?
Oh.
All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for making it, especially to all of our speakers, and have a great night.
Thank you.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night, Director Woodward.
Good night, Dr. Mance. Mine went out already.